Hello, welcome to our channel. It happens to be the 23rd of January. Can you believe it's almost February? There's an alert out for the worst winter storm in history. It's not the worst winter storm in 40 years. It is the worst winter storm in history, with the lowest temperatures ever recorded about to hit you in the next couple days. So there is an alert for that. We don't use the word alert like anybody else. We use it only when there's an emergency. So there is an emergency alert. And on to our advertiser. If you were to buy one thing and one thing only, in terms of herbs or medicines, your supply chain is about to be cut for the next 10 to 15 days. UPS won't drive, FedEx won't drive. Everything's coming to a standstill. Other than sea vegetables, which I like for 1,000 reasons, the one thing that I would have on hand is cinnamon, because you have a diabetic in your family and your supplies are going to get cut. Insulin, I'm at the doctor a couple days ago, maybe a week ago, and I said, insulin has a product that makes you fat. He says, yes, it does. You want to get fatter and fatter? Just keep taking your insulin. You need to look for alternate methods, such as eating differently, losing weight, and using cinnamon. This is Ceylon cinnamon from Get the Tea. I'm down 110, 115 pounds. So Ceylon cinnamon is really good. I let myself go. I thought top ramen was the best thing since sliced bread. I thought sliced bread was good. Boy, did I learn differently. So I call 928-308-0408, and I make sure I have at least 5 bottles of cinnamon on hand. Right now I have 6, 7 bottles of cinnamon and probably 10 bottles of gymnema, which is like cinnamon, but most people won't take gymnema, but they know what cinnamon is. You can break that up and put it in your hubby's coffee. He won't even know it, just getting cinnamon coffee, and guess what? Suddenly he starts to feel better because his blood sugar level's better. Anyway, that's what the NIH says. So I go to Get the Tea because I've tried other cinnamon. This works. Some of the other cinnamons don't. Anyway, on to the news. Susie Wiles. She's the chief of staff of President Trump. If Trump dies, I got word from a source in the Pentagon that they will launch nukes. When I said there was something wrong with Air Force One and Marine One went down, which is Air Force One in Britain, you should have stood up and listened. When God says something was wrong with Air Force One, the right rear engine mount, the left inside engine has a valve. I don't know if it's got some controller. Probably not. It's a 747. It's 25 or 35 years old, depending on Air Force One or 2, 0001 or 2. It's got a valve that's going bad, and it's got the left wing flopping. So they turned around because they felt the flopping. And you don't fly a plane when one of the wings is going floppity, 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 flop, especially if it's the tail wing. They're pretty set. So, Susie Wiles, when you allow the VA to sell military records around the world, active duty military records around the world, and you compromise our security, Americans took the algorithms in their cell phones over to China, and they plugged them in, and every time you fart, every time you burp, that burp is sent to a main computer and then to 13 different nations. Friendly nations like China, Russia, Iran. They know where you're at 24/7. They also know our nuclear launch codes. And every base you're under filming Trump, every place you are, they know where you're at. And I've been assured that the first place that goes boom if Trump dies is right under your derriere. You're the first one to go. So may I highly suggest you consider listening to what we say, maybe decensoring our program, so Trump doesn't die, and within a few minutes, you're a goner. That's what the Pentagon source said. Anyway, on to the news. Silver's at 100, gold's at 5,000. Oh, it's bouncing up and down, but it broke the 5,000 level. And France seized an oil tanker of Russia, and they just boarded it. So now France is seizing oil tankers, seizing oil from Russia. This is going to get nasty fast. First they say, well, we better talk to Russia. Then they seize an oil tanker. So he comes out in a speech, we better get friendly with Russia with not a black eye, but a big red thing. And somebody smacked him in the eye. Anyway, Alberta, Canada is voting to leave Canada because the Canadian government has gone so Hitlerized that they won't even allow you on public land. Well, that's all Alberta is public land. They're closing the roads to screw the people. They're having a hard time getting places. And in Hollywood today, Jack Smith, that prosecutor, U.S. Attorney General, is going after Trump. You know, I just want to let you know he's in front of Congress, and the halls of Congress are empty. Because Nancy Drew walks by, and the halls of Congress are empty. And Jack Smith hasn't aged one day in 10 years. The same amount of white in his beard. The same amount. He's filthy. He's a filthy slob. But the same amount of white in his beard. In other words, Jack Smith and Congress is all Hollywood. It's all fake. Put on places like Zero Hedge to make you think like something's happening. Anyway, Russia put a price on Greenland. They said, go ahead and buy it from... We put a price for about $200 million on it. There's 30,000 people. Almost all of them are on welfare. The Dutch government sends $20,000 a year per person to Greenland. They said all they do is fish. That's what they produce, fish. And, a church in St. Paul was raided by about 25 libtards. And are you ready for this? Pam Bondi arrested 2 of them. Good job, Pammy. Oh, really good job. Yeah, go FBI. Yeah, won a bunch of worthless pukes. Anyway, James O'Keefe was at Davos, and he started recording the conversation. He got recognized. He was wearing a blonde wig, really bad blonde wig. He looked like a horrible libtard. And he got spotted, and he ran. He took off, walked out of there fast. He got scared. Okay, he got scared. Anyway, they were discussing weather manipulation. Weather manipulation being discussed at Davos as the worst storm hits America in forever. Lowest temperatures in forever. So the elites are discussing weather manipulation and weather control while we're getting slammed in America with the worst storm in history. You have to think about that. Thank you, Oh My God Media, OMG. Anyway, so as Trump is leaving Davos, all the world leaders there discussing how they're going to kill people with weather manipulation and dollar manipulation and all this, while they're discussing this, Trump gives a speech and leaves. And then a fire breaks out in the main hall in Davos. A fire breaks out at Davos after Trump left at 9:30. I think the fire broke out about 7, but he was out of Davos. He was headed to the airport already. So, and 3 days ago, as these people are discussing weather manipulation and manipulation of prices and manipulation of the dollar, and they're saying we're going to jack the price up of natural gas and electricity. So guess what happened a couple of days ago? They spiked the price of natural gas and electricity all across the Midwest right before the largest storm in history hit. So Davos is talking about screwing people by jacking up prices right before the storms hit. Davos folks are talking about weather manipulation. And then we get hit with the worst storm in history, the lowest temperatures across 40 different states. It's going to be 5 degrees in Dallas on Monday. It's minus 20 in Fargo, North Dakota right now. Minus 20. Now, I've gone out and played in minus 20 when I lived in Montana. No biggie. You just dress for it. You don't spend much time outside. The lakes are frozen, although we went on one lake and the whole thing cracked, and I said, I'm out of here. You know, it had frozen, but it hadn't frozen totally. There are going to be... Now, this is on top of the worst sunspot in 40 years. And now we're getting hit with the worst storm in 40 years? No, it's the worst. It's going to be record cold throughout the United States. We're going down into the low 20s. But I live near Seattle, and our temperature is remediated by the ocean. So it gets cold here, but not real cold, like just east of us in the mountains. So electricity prices. So Davos discusses screwing the people. Then they spike the price of natural gas and they spike the price of electricity and bring in the biggest storm. Talk about screw the pooch, man. They are screwing the people like you wouldn't believe. This is the Davos crowd. So is it any wonder Trump wants nothing to do with them? So anyway, now there is a huge storm coming in. And what's happening is from the north, from the Arctic, a very high cold front of about minus 40 degrees is coming in, and there's a river of rain going to hit the south. Well, what happens when those two meet? What happens when the high winds from the Arctic meet the rain coming in at a low level? Well, that causes an ice storm, like in 1985, the worst ice storm in history. And I was in it. I was driving my Volkswagen Bug, and suddenly I noticed I had no steering and the trucks were going off the road. And so I took my foot off the pedal, the Bug went straight, and then I went to get out of the car and my foot just slipped right out from under me. The freeway was ice. So I drive along, I get to an off-ramp in Columbia, Missouri. I went 5 miles an hour, it took me almost 45 minutes. I pulled in, all my lights went off. I pulled into Columbia, Missouri. I pulled in looking for help, and a cop gave me a ticket. I followed him to the police station. He got my $20 all right. He pocketed it and drove off. Don't build in Missouri. But anyway, corrupt cops there in Columbia. But I eventually fixed it. It was a fuse problem. I don't know what it was. I played with it for an hour or so. But the roads were slicker than snot. There were icicles that reached to the ground. 8, 10-foot icicles. The power lines, I've never seen them sag so much. I'd just gotten out of the Army, and I was headed across the country to visit a relative in, where the Pilgrims landed. The rock where the Pilgrims supposedly landed. Anyway, so I visited those beaches. I visited Boston, but when I was leaving, I should have taken a bus. But when I was leaving, I hit an ice storm from Kansas to Missouri. Ice. That means transportation is dead. That means we've talked about food, water, toilet paper, ammunition, heat, communications, gold and silver, and medicine. Okay. The medicine I would suggest highly right now is Ceylon cinnamon. I would order it for the next storm, because you can't get to the hospital in times like this. In Texas, 2 years ago, they had an ice storm, and all the farmers sat. The pickup trucks can't handle ice storms. They got one wheel in the rear spinning. They can't handle ice, and all the farmers use pickup trucks to haul stuff in. So when there's ice on the road, you can't move as a farmer. The best cars is either the old Volkswagen Bug or the front-wheel drive ones. The four-wheel drive ones like the Acura are great. They're fabulous because they got all four wheels going. But that's fairly new technology. Yeah, they've had four-wheel drive, but not like they have today. It's totally different. But the bottom line is you're going to be stuck in your home. In 1985, when we got hit with these blizzards, a lot of people had wood stoves. They had a stack of wood outside. They could last for a couple weeks. Today, almost nobody has a wood stove, which means your house is going to freeze solid unless you have a big boy or something. But be careful. You burn gas inside the house, you got an oxygen problem. You got a carbon monoxide problem. There's no portable heat pack except Simply Clean Foods. They have a portable heat pack that you can plug a 1,500 watt heater into. A lot of people have generators, but they, like me, they don't run them but once a year, and the gas is old. So good luck starting them, because a 2,000 watt Honda generator will run a 1,500 watt heater. What we did in Montana when it got cold was we left our water running, because if the water's running, it won't freeze. But we had one winter where a guy had pipelines 2 feet deep, and he forgot to leave his water running, and all his pipes busted. Once they're frozen, they're frozen. They ain't thawing out till spring. And if the weather manipulation says dry and cold and you don't have snow outside, you don't have any water. food and water and heat and communication with your neighbors. Because if they don't have any heat, they might freeze to death. So food, water, toilet paper, toilet paper if you're married. Food, water, toilet paper, ammunition, heat, communications, gold and silver, and medicines. That's food and water, toilet paper, ammunition, heat, communications with your neighbors, gold and silver, and medicines. You're going to need the food, water, and the heat. And communicating with your neighbors. You've probably got plenty of toilet paper. After this latest toilet paper scare. Toilet paper's in short supply. Toilet paper's in short supply. Right. So, that minus 40 weather coming in from the Arctic, combining with that jet stream of water created by, thank you, NASA, the World Economic Forum. Weather manipulation. They're talking about it. They're spiking prices. They're openly talking about killing and screwing Americans at Davos. Where's the FBI? Doing nothing about it. Nothing. They're not even arresting those spiking the prices of natural gas or electricity. Why? Because they're part of the mess we're in. Anyway, Susie Wiles, take to heart what I said, and you prepare for 5 degrees in Dallas, which means it's probably going to be close to zero, because they always measure the temperature at the airport, which is usually warmer than what you're at. So they'll say, oh, it's 30, but at your house it's 22, 25 degrees, because they're measuring it on what they call the tarmac, on the tar. And that's usually much warmer, because there's no trees around, there's nothing. Anyway, God bless. Thank you very much. Prepare for what's coming. And we'll see you on the backside of the weekend come Monday. And it'll be the 26th by then. We'll see you on the backside.